Why do we need a private placement? Can't we just raise the money and go about our business? Listen, again, I'm not an attorney. You probably already know that. But here are some of the reasons why a private placement is very, very important. This is a question that people ask all the time. They frequently don't understand it. There's a couple different answers, and I want to share a couple different perspectives. First, the word place means sell. So a public placement means selling on the New York Stock Exchange, OTC, some of the big exchanges. A private placement means selling shares of stock privately, not through the public markets. And the big difference is that when they go through the public markets, those stocks are examined by auditors, attorneys, regulators that represent both the federal and the state governments. So a lot of different people review these documents. If you're going to sell stock privately and you're going to go outside of the channels, then it's very important that you be dealing with people who have the ability to make this analysis for themselves. So that's why typically accredited or wealthier investors are the ones who get involved in these kinds of deals. Now, think about this. If you're dealing with wealthier people, they have the money to hire their own attorney, their own accountant, their own advisors, their own people that can help them make decisions. Supposedly, they're more sophisticated. Certainly, if something goes wrong and the money gets lost, because these investments tend to be a little on the riskier side, if something goes wrong, these are people who should be able to survive the loss and not be impacted terribly. Whereas regular working class people might have some problems with that. They might lose enough that it would impact them in a bad way. So the government doesn't want regular working people that don't have lots of extra money to be playing around in this arena. They just don't want that to happen. They don't want to have to put them on welfare. They don't want to have to take care of them. They don't want to hear that they don't have the resources to take care of themselves. So for a lot of reasons, the government has been very clear about why they want the private placement business to work the way that it does. Now, why do you need a private placement? Well, a couple different things. One is attorneys will tell you that the private placement, the most important thing that it does is it discloses the important issues that investors need to understand about the deal. Now, if I told you all the things that could go wrong when you leave your house in the morning to drive to work, how all the terrible things that could happen to you in your car, then you park your car and you walk across the street and terrible things could happen there. You get in an elevator, something terrible could happen. You go on an escalator, something terrible could happen. Slip, fall, crash, bang, boom, all kinds of things could happen. We live in a dangerous world. But in the investment community where there are lawsuits and different kinds of issues, you want to tell your investors all the many things you can think of that could go wrong, because by telling them what can go wrong, they can't come back to you later and say, well, gee, if I'd have known that, I never would have invested. And that's the worst thing that could happen, because then they can ask you to rescind. So for all these reasons, it's really important that you lay out what's going on, make the proper disclosures, tell the investors all the things that are going on. And the other really big thing that you got to put in your document, you got to put all the disclosures about self-dealing. If you're paying yourself anything, if you're taking profit sharing, if you're taking fees, no matter what you're taking, you have to disclose those fees, because you don't want the investors coming back and saying, I didn't authorize for you to take money out of the deal without my permission. So you have to disclose those things. And when you put all of those things into the package, which also includes your operating agreement, which are the arrangements between you and your investors, and also your subscription agreement, which summarizes all your arrangements, and then it's basically the sign-up form that they use to join the deal. When you put all that into a nice, thick package of papers, you end up with a properly organized deal that will stand up to the test of a court of law, that an investor would actually look at and say, these are people who know what they're doing. I can't tell you how many times I've heard of situations where a promoter will give some half-baked kind of deal to an investor. The investor looks at it, doesn't get a good impression, and then declines the deal, and of course never tells the truth about why they declined. They never tell you, well, this deal looks half-baked, it looks like it's your first time out of the box, it looks like you don't know what you're doing. So the investor never says that to you, or the sponsor, the promoter. Instead, what they say is, oh, gee, I'm really sorry, but I totally forgot my kid's going to college next year and I need the money for that. Or I totally forgot my kid's getting married and I don't have any money. They make up some dumb excuse, but the truth is that they really don't like something about your deal. They don't like the terms. They don't like the way it looks. They don't like the packaging. There's something else probably going on that you just don't know about. So if you don't give them a thorough, well-organized, properly packaged deal, they're probably not going to move forward with you. The other thing that could happen is the investor, beside the investor getting cold feet, then the investor passes it along to his or her advisors. That could be attorneys, accountants, or whoever they are. And those people look at the deal and say, gee, I've looked at thousands of deals in my career. This one looks really weak. And if you want a referral to somebody else, I'll help you with that. But I don't recommend you moving forward with this deal. So lots of things could go wrong. So if you're going to bother do a private placement, make sure that you do a good one. Make sure that it's right. Make sure it's well organized. It looks sharp and it reflects the way that you and your company operate. And that's really important. So private placements are really important. The last piece here, a lot of people think that the private placement process is just a necessary evil. It's not. It's not a necessary evil. It's a real opportunity for you to write the business rules of your deal exactly the way that you want them written. Organize your deal the way you want it, put your deal together the way you want it, and then go out to your investors exactly the way you want. There aren't that many businesses where you can write the rules the way you can for this one. So this is not a necessary evil. This is really an opportunity for you to go out and do exactly what you want under the supervision of an attorney, a licensed securities attorney, somebody who knows what they're doing in this arena. And when you do it properly, this is a great business. The private placement process works out okay. It's not terribly painful. You got to get it right. You got to make sure that it happens, and you need to understand it. But the long and the short is that this is a great business. So go out and stake your claim.